Today we're talking about self-worth and dignity.
Mhm.
What do you all think about that? How much are we worth?
Hmm.
I have an example just came to me. How much were worth the lives of the Jewish people around 1945
Mhm.
compared to the ones who had control over them? What
Mhm.
do you guys think about that kind of worth? Taraka, you can say something if you want.
It's my mind boggles when you brought up that subject. Yeah, actually,
Mind boggles indeed.
yeah,
So,
self worth is individual,
mm,
very individual, right? Every one of us have very different level of calculating our self worth. You know, some of us has a bit higher standard. Some of us just, you know, it doesn't have much to go from. So it boils down to every individual experience of what we're worth, right? But maybe before we go into like it's so like a heavy start to it. Yeah, let's talk.
well, the psychologist will say something first. Well, this word self-worth has been on the main platters of self-love agendas and the love yourself movement
Mm-hmm.
for many years now, right?
Mm.
And for many decades now, people have been talking about self-worth as
Mm.
if um, as if when we have that, then we are able to go through life, matching, creating, or attracting, or um, saying yes to experiences that will match up to that level of worth, as if the thinking is that if our level of self-perception of our worth is very low, then
Mm.
we'll be saying yes to a lot of experiences in life that will make us suffer or make us feel or is lesser than us or
Mm.
lesser than what we deserve. So
Mm.
self-worth also comes with a whole vocabulary of different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the words like deserve, measure, how
Mm-hmm.
much,
Mm-hmm.
calculation,
Mm-hmm.
dignity, respect,
Mm-hmm.
all comes in a whole bundle there.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it's a tricky area, of course, because once we tread into that whole conversation, that whole discourse, it is already a frame of mind. In fact, before I just go on, I just want to say that this is our current times and this is a discourse that is a modern discourse. In fact, just to bring up that there are societies and communities and cultures that don't even have that language, don't have that perspective. No questioning about, you know, what you're worth before we evaluate success in life, for example.
Mm.
So yeah, that's all I wanted to say for a start. And let's hear from Eddie.
The worth of people, institutions, it's been around us for since humanity. There are cultures in Japan, for example, that they will offer the food to the ancestors before eating a meal, for example, because they think it's more important to honor that. Um, the thing is, about 20 to 30 years ago, when I began learning about NLP, we were talking about we should gratify us first because we're more important. So when you get your salary, you should buy yourself something first before buying to the family and things like that. So the thing is, what are the criteria that we're using to evaluate or give us credentials or judge our values? What are the factors we use on that calculation in the evaluation?
Mm.
So what comes to me is that when we are judging ourselves, how could we not be judging other people too? Because if we have a worth, then how are we in that market? How we see other people in that market comparing to our dignity or our worth? So for me, this topic is important because when I hear nowadays things like in lectures that when we say, "Oh, we need to value ourselves more," I should love myself more, and yeah, and keep my freedom of expression because I'm I'm valuable. So do we suddenly start judging ourselves and giving ourselves more value? So how do we give ourselves more value when it comes to that? So what happens to the value of the others? Is there a competition? Because when it comes to price and how much things are worth, then we have different references, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's worth more than the other? So what do you girls think about this?
Actually, for me, usually before I go into a topic, especially such a great topic to talk about self-worth, I like to take a look at, first of all, where did this idea of self-worth even come from? Right? We start from the very basics. Does every one of us come into this world like all of a sudden we like, what am I worth? Do we ask that question? Where did it come from in the first place? How do we even pick up this idea we're worth this or that? Like, how do we evaluate? Shall we do? At least it's a parameter that we can branch from. Shall we take a look at that, explore that? But every one of us, to me, every one of us has equal opportunity, equal, regardless where we come from, background, culture, family, and all of that. Every one of us come into this world. We are this absolute, infinite potential of boundless spirit. But at what time or when do we even have this? When do we even question ourselves? When we're a baby, all of a sudden we just decided, oh my God, my mom don't love me as much as I thought, so I'm not worth much. When do we even have that idea? Do you think?
Yeah.
I think. Oh, sorry. Go on.
Oh, I mentioned psychology in a playful way just now because
Excuse me.
actually the whole movement of measurement, quantitative measurement, about weighing things, evaluating things,
Mm-hmm.
actually has its genesis in psychology, and like assessing how in a measurable, apparently scientific way. So it's not to say that it's no good, but it has colonized the world. It has colonized the world in terms of how success is being measured, like
Mm-hmm.
in organizations, your KPIs and how well you do and what you do, and your performance, how you should be graded in school.
Mm-hmm.
Children are assessed like, when actually we go back to the root of feedback, it
Mm-hmm.
is when we give A, B, C, D, E, and all that. Originally, it's supposed to be feedback so that we know where we have made mistakes or places where we could improve ourselves. But from there, sort of that origin was kind of a bit lost. It's not so
Mm-hmm.
much like feedback for improvement or feedback for awareness, but
Mm-hmm.
it was supposed to be feedback to make aware. Then later on, it just became like how good. Okay. So the concept of how good pervades society. And actually there's a lot of examination about last year I read a book where it's a Buddhist book on happiness, I think, or something like that. And inside there, it was quite cute because the author said that it's a Western concept, self-worth. In Asian societies, we hardly talk about it in that way. And probably it's got to do with the genesis of evaluation and being clear and the scientific movement. So yeah, I think it's important to see that because as a human culture, we might not have that language or that conception before. And it came about because we want to be successful, we want to be scientific, and then it takes on certain forms.
Sorry to interrupt, but I want to share this because I think this topic and this concept of self-worth, it goes more raw and more intimate than we think. If we go back in Japan, people would kill themselves and jump out of buildings, or even before that, when there were no laws or rules. If they were dishonored, they would kill themselves because of honor. So that's one of the factors of self-evaluation. And in India, we have the caste system. But I want to go even deeper than that. Let's say you raise a kid until this kid's about, let's say, 3 to 5 years old. And then this kid's aware that him or herself exists in this world. And then there comes another kid in the room. Maybe the mom's friend's kid come. They start feeling jealous. That jealousy is very raw. It comes even before evaluation. It's not even, I don't know if we can even call it cultural or genetics, because honestly speaking, if we talk about dogs, they do feel jealous of each other. Cats too. So I think this goes much intimate and deeper than that.
More primal, you think it's actually a primal thing that exists as?
It's very primal, and it's not taught. In many cases, I don't think it's taught. If we talk about honor, of course, it's inherited culturally, but like a little girl, let's say she's 14, and she gives a necklace to her boyfriend, wants him to wear every day. She wants to be seen important and wants to be seen that he cares, and he's carrying her gift everywhere she goes, everywhere he goes. She wants to feel important. So that's one of the criteria. She feels important because he's wearing her gift every day. So how do we come up with this criteria of how much we're valued or how much we're worth based on these small actions and things like that? Because we're talking about even babies, even animals, it's more primal than we think. I cannot see this in a different way than we being present and seeing our character being happening, manifesting ourselves that way. What do you guys think?
For me, this is what my perspective. Every one of us, we come into this world like a clean slate, empty, clean, pure, right? It's untainted, and when we're in our mother's stomach, all our needs are met. Everything instantly, everything, security, love, warmth, nutrition, everything is met. So we don't have any idea of am I getting this or not? You know, like we have no doubt. There's no suspicion whether we've been loved or not. But as soon as we come into this world, of course, everything is not as instant anymore. The baby is still experiencing this expansion, a clean slate, pure. But this first incident, when the baby's needs are not met, regardless what it is, it could be just a cuddle or food or a diaper change and all that. So first seed of doubt starts to appear in the mind of the baby. First seed, just a little impression, just a little, right? It's not right or wrong, good or bad. It's just first, oh, what's happening? Where's my mommy? Where's my food? And this idea, this first seed of doubt became an impression in the baby's mind. It became an impression. And from there, it starts to question, am I worthy? Excuse me, am I worthy? What's going on? So usually it's also just a seed of doubt, because we came into this world with no doubt. We're absolutely very conscious and pure and alert. But when this first seed of doubt starts to show up in our mind, it became an impression, and then it became an idea. That's how ideas are formed, from a seed. And from this idea, then it may, depending on how this baby grow up, it may start to form into a belief that, oh my God, I'm worth like this, I'm worth like that. So it comes from this first seed of doubt. And then of course from belief, it can become a conditioning. That's how I'm conditioned to grow up. For me, a great example, in Chinese family, we are aware there is this prejudice against girls, you know, boys and girls in a family. I grew up having doubt myself from a very young age, because there's always a lot of preference towards my brother compared to me. I grew up wishing I'm a boy, right? The self-worth thing is very, very, you know, embedded in the Chinese culture. So it became a conditioning, and I go like, this is part of my culture. So it's like I believe that I'm not as important as my brother. So that's why it came from this original seed of doubt, when we start to question what's going on, what's happening when my needs not met as a baby, and then it formed into, you know, an idea, a belief, and then a conditioning. So from there, that's like what you were sharing earlier. Even just growing out from this original thought, right? Somebody came into the room. The mom, oh my God, this cute baby. So all of a sudden you have a competition. You have competition. And naturally you go, oh, am I not as worthy as that baby? That's where the jealousy thing comes from. We start to compare. We start to compete. And go on, you know, not just in one situation. In every situation, we always gauge ourselves, like, because the closest caregiver usually is the mother. So we wouldn't have the mother or the father to compare with, because I want all her attention. I want all her love. When someone or something is taking her attention away, we start to compare and we start to doubt. And that's where this question of self-worth comes from. How much am I worth? Right?
And then that's also contagious, because even parents start comparing their kids. If a kid is born like left-handed, then they'll work things out to try to make the kid become right-handed, because it's not a good thing in some Asian cultures. So to me, the self-worth issue comes from, like you said, the conditioning begins when we connect ourselves to this matrix, and the conditioning of what? For example, when we believe there's a law of gravity, that's one of the first conditions, right? Things fall when we drop them. So when we start to believe that we are something, that there's something apart, like we are a character, then that character outside of what we are has a value. Because if I ask you right now, which eye is more important to you, your right eye or your left eye? We don't have an answer. Oh, is your index finger more important than your thumb? We cannot answer because we know that's part of us, right? But when something is us, there's no way to evaluate. When we start seeing ourselves as something out there, like a character, we start comparing ourselves with things, with people, then we are unaware completely from who we are truly. Then we're like, then we're able to evaluate ourselves. But once we are aware that we are not that, there's no evaluation whatsoever. Like I said now, if you look at your body, there are no organs that are more important than the other. We're all integrated as one. I think when we start to condition ourselves as characters, then evaluation kicks in. That's where, I don't know, relationships like, I want to matter to you. I want to be important to you. How do you see me as? What am I to you? Like, it's funny now, but it comes in forms of feelings, actually. It doesn't come even through reasoning. It's so unaware that it becomes like a blind behavior, really. So how do we catch ourselves doing that? How can we see ourselves as that event?
So what you're saying is self-worth is also, it also comes with expectation then. Some form of expectation. If there's no expectation, then there's nothing to gauge again, and there's no even sense of high or low self-worth. So I expect some attention, I expect some respect, I expect some loving, right? So there is a...
Amazing. Thank you for bringing that up, Taraka, because expectation cannot exist without a timeline. We can only expect for results that are not here. Expectations in the future. Expectations can generate anxiety in us. So we're not present, right? We're expecting something out there, or 1 second later, let's say, or another moment. So why am I talking about this timeline? Because characters, they have to exist somewhere. We need a timeline and we need space. Therefore, when you have time and space, then you have a scenario. That's where characters are. So, very well put. When we put expectation there, it's not in a present moment. It's usually in a script of a character. So yeah. So how do we wake up from that?
Drop your expectation. I know it's easier said than done, right? But I find when you have no expectation, when you're also totally present, regardless what you're doing, and you're doing something, oh, this is for my boyfriend, I'm making, like what you say earlier, I'm making this necklace, I hope he loves it. And then when you're doing that and you give it to your partner, you don't have any expectation of whether he's going to wear it or not. But of course, you receive with gratitude and love and all of that. And the moment you just do that without any condition again, or any agenda, I give you, you must wear. Otherwise, I don't feel love. So without any expectation or any agenda put forth in what you're doing, then there's no sense of self-worth. I just do this, I make you this, I'm very happy, I give it to you, and that's it. There's no, oh, am I worthy even to give it to him? That's not even that. So the self-worth is like, all these threads are kind of like connected. It all boils down to the love towards ourselves and others, whether there's any condition put into it. When there's no condition, then there's no expectation. You're very totally innocent. You're so innocent, so present, so innocent with what's going to happen. Like you're like a kid, like, oh my god, what's going to happen, because you're so innocent, right? And 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 in that space of innocence, there's no doubt, there's no seed of doubt or idea that am I even worthy of this present? No, because it doesn't exist in the present moment, because we're not in some future moment expecting something to happen, or in the past gauging what our experience with something that already happened. That's just not. It's right here.
Taraka, we fall into that other condition, the other conditioning, which is different a bit from law of gravity, but it's also one of the primary conditions, which is cause and effect.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if we don't have any expectations, I think every single behavior of ours will be completely different.
Absolutely.
When I talk about cause and effect, is I give you love, then what are you gonna give me? Why is this love one way only?
Mm.
Why is this not balanced or two ways, for example? So, if there's expectation, is it love? Or is it an evaluation? Is it an expectation? Or is it an investment? So, like you said, would you even do it if you're not expecting? And would you do it differently if you have no expectation, right?
Mm.
May I
So
also
when people tell me like, okay, then I should meditate to have peace, for example, and then people ask me, why do you meditate? I don't know why I meditate. I just meditate. But if you're doing things for a purpose, like cause and effect, you're probably jumping from one conditioning to another.
Mm.
Taraka, why do you meditate, for example?
It's like my second breath.
It's you, right? Isn't it you?
It's so natural now. I mean, like I do it because it's a normal function.
I cannot even say it's part of you. It's just you, right?
Absolutely.
So I would like to invite our viewers to observe this part with us about expectations, self-worth, our value, how we value ourselves. Oh, Julia, please,
Yeah.
could you share with us?
I wanted to say that, along that line of thought, then I think a lot of the people that I work with, and also, through life, what I observe of myself is that the difficulty comes when you not only, like what Eddie was saying, it's like have certain values imprinted, and then there are expectations therefore coming into play. But I think the difficulty for many is when the what it means not only to say yes, but also to say no. Because when no is being said, you suddenly confront this aspect of self that there's a lot of what you do or a lot of what you have or what you want that is transacted into place. So for example, if I want my parents' love, then I be as they want me to be, like a good girl. Or if to, um, I want to get money in the bank, then I have to go work and be a good worker so I get retained and so on. Just now, when you brought us back to a more primal perspective towards worth, so I gave it a good thing. And yeah, it's like, okay, a baby comes into this world. Let's say I'm a gay person, then
a cave person.
Cave person. Maybe not still a cave person. But the thing is, when we come into this world, then, then there's the elements. Maybe there's the warm skin of the mother, but I'm born into a tribe. And it's not only me that is subject to the great unknown. Imagine like the canyons and the stars, and
Mm.
it's scary. And then suddenly it might be cold, and in winter, maybe a dinosaur might come or something. The tribe and the collective, they would, the survival depends on that tribe, that collective. So the after suddenly we became very, very aware that there's another that we are dependent on the other. We're not only subject to the elements, but we are subject to the other. So that kind of survival mentality sort of kicks in. So maybe worth is not only a kind of like an emotional or psychological concept, but of course is a survival concept that is really like very much imprinted in the DNA, that if we want to be accepted or have a place to survive, then we must be somewhat useful, or if not, then we the stronger ones will get the milk, like and the weak ones will go, the runt will be forgotten, for example. So that some kind of like very primal behaviors, like why success or why have something, and why certain things need to be transacted and exchanged. Like, for example, like if I want to be have more of that dinosaur that we killed, then I must be the warrior, I must be strong, and I must prove myself in order to get that piece of meat more, right? So okay, so if I say no, for example, like I don't know whether you all watched like not watch, but read. Most of us read Tuesdays with Maury by Mitch Albom, right? I just watched the play with my daughter, and um, inside there, this Mitch, he had this professor he loved so much, and who really connected so well with him. But for 16 years after, once he got into the rat race, he didn't talk to the professor for 16 years. He only connected back to his beloved professor when he heard over a radio podcast that the professor is dying because of some Lou Gehrig's disease or whatever, right? So this I want to take a look at the 16 years. It's like we flow on with life. And in that 16 years, he was chasing and chasing and chasing. And he said that he has no off days. His is all 7 days a week. The whole life is really about pushing and pushing and pushing. And he says, why is it that I don't let it off? Because I don't let go. It's because there's always like younger and better reporters coming up. He's a sports reporter. And then every time he says no, when he's afraid of saying no, he's afraid these opportunities will be taken away. So this is kind of like a driven by fear. I mean, of course, there's transaction happening in transacting for a stable life. And then there's also this cannot stop fear also of losing. So the professor, Maury asked him, was like, are you happy, Maury? And are you happy, Mitch? I mean, even that very simple question, like, who are you in this? So I think that just now when Eddie invited us to go back to the primal question, two things came up: the survival and also the question of who am I? It's like half the time in an unstable reality, we will be asking like, oh, who am I? Why am I here? Who am I in the very practical sense would be latching on to the collective, being of use, being even like have worth it so that I can live in it and not be thrown to the dogs and be eaten, right? So so who am I in society? How can I find a place in society? Even those movements, now I'm beginning to think that it's really the quest of who am I? And all those more like complex things that we all talk about every week, more abstract terms are really like going into the heart of who am I too. But when even those more crude transactions that now we say are like judged to be we evaluate that ourselves to say that, oh, are we transactional? Are we this or we that? These are maybe also part of the who am I quest. Yeah.
Um, I want to bring us back to, I think you guys are familiar about Maslow's pyramid, Maslow's triangle.
Hierarchy of needs.
The base of that triangle is survival, right? What we eat, we're gonna dress, we're gonna eat. It's about, do we exist at all, right? Do we survive? And at the top of the triangle is a different kind of fulfillment, which is related like to more of a self-awareness kind of fulfillment. I would say almost timeless. How how do we go from there to the top then? Do we even go there? Anything in the timeline, time and space is very much impermanent. We're trying to survive all the time when we're caught up in the character. So, for example, the other day I was watching this. I don't know. I like to watch animal videos, so I was watching this dodo kind of video where someone finds an animal and start taking care of the animal. And I saw this goose that was ignored by the mom. So the thing is, we see this in nature all the time. If you see a nest full of birds, like a baby birds, the stronger one, in order to survive, will kick all the brothers down until the parents come and there's only him to be fed. So he's actually killing his brothers to get the full attention from the parents. So that's how that bird will grow. So at that point, there's no seeing everything as one. There's only me, 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 and how important we want to be seen. And always with that fear, the fear, the fear that comes with jealousy, for example, is so primal too. Like we're gonna lose our space, our territory, our value. So how to be aware and not be caught in this game of survival and this fear of, when we talk about survival, we're actually talking about race, like life and death. That's survival, right? So we put our values and self-worth to that point of survival. So how to jump from there and maybe, just maybe, think that maybe we're priceless perhaps. I don't want to go there too much because if we say we're priceless, it's a form of evaluation too. So I don't want to fall into that. So I wanted to bring this up about Maslow and what actually satisfies us. And when we are not in survival mode, then what mode are we? Are we timeless? Or we lacking character? What happens then?
So would you say our basic survival, like in order to survive, like every one of us come into this world to survive. So this primal instinct of survival, there's a sense of lack. If we're in this mode, that means I have to be the one that kick all my brother, sister, duck out of the or bird out of the nest in order for me to survive. There's not enough room for more than one of us.
If we don't have the sense of lack, there's no way to survive, in other words.
Mm.
You need to understand that, because this is so basic. Because if we talk about lions, the father lion will kill its cub, the baby lion, because he will lack food in the group in the future when that little lion grows. So the father himself will kill its cub because of lack, because of scarcity, and because of his supremacy and power, and he needs to reign the whole pack. So yeah, there is a sense of lack.
In the
There is,
survival mode. Mm.
yes.
And I do want to say that the survival mode thing is kind of, when we say primal, it's kind of like an imprinted not only here, but it's also in the DNA. So when we when we become aware, okay, in the human journey, there is, of course, I mean, what distinguishes human from the lion is that we have the ability to, people call it conscience or awareness, right? There is the awareness, and therefore we are different than animals. The reason goes, but so in those cases, I mean, in our case, then survival. When do we start? That means what I want to say is worth, therefore, and moving towards who I am in a aware state is actually a very real struggle. I'm saying that this DNA impulses that comes, the primal patterns that come, we will have to confront that, and we will have to distinguish that, and also grapple with that because this is all of me too. So we're not just this ethereal beings, don't need food, don't need survival, don't need money and all that, right? So this whole experience is one that is not so easily, patly spoken in a line. It's a real hot pot, of messiness. That's what I wanted to say.
Okay, in the modern world where we live right now, it doesn't look that primal, but I might say, let's say in Singapore, you're in a workplace and you have a manager, and you see other people like sucking up to that manager and getting close and say, hey, you know, patronizing and making the manager feeling good, getting closer and closer every day, and then pointing fingers to um, other workers, saying, look, that guy is lazy. He doesn't show up on time and things like that. So what's happening here? Look at this movement. It's very, very interesting. I asked you guys this in the beginning of our podcast. How do we evaluate our fingers or our organs? Is it more important than the other? And we said no, right? In the workplace, when we try to put ourselves near to the manager or to the boss and pointing fingers, making other people further. So when you put someone further, then you don't have that proximity. It's not part of us. Therefore, it's less important. So sometimes we say, look, that guy is like trying to make the boss happy again. So the boss becomes closer and closer to him, and that guy becomes more valuable. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So he secured his job, right?
Yeah.
So it's like he's seeing the boss is almost seeing that guy as part of him, just like we see one finger being part of the whole hand. This is happening in every micro and macro way in our existence,
Exactly.
in our behaviors and everything. Even when we talk about ourselves, what is a tumor? What is cancer, for example? It's the outbreak of uncontrollable growth of a certain kind of cells. Why do I fast every day? Why do I eat once a day? Because I want to allow my body to recycle itself, let it lose the weaker cells and let the new cells be born. I'm not attached to that. What would be the opposite of that then? The struggle and the attempt to keep trying to make things worth it and eternal. Do you want to know which industry would that be, for example?
Hmm?
Cosmetics. When we put vitamin D, cream and lotion, we're putting vitality to our skin and our face. We're trying to prolong
Yeah.
ourselves.
The plastic
But
surgery whole industry.
it's a bit different. I'm not talking about plastic surgery. I'm talking about when we use cosmetics, trying to almost unnaturally make our skins healthier, supposedly healthier, or even using stem cells, placenta stem cells to keep vitality in our skin. We're trying to prolong that life. But what about if just not give too much worth on it? Just let it die and let our body do its work and build new cells, new skins, new DNA with new codes. How about that? So what is actually natural then? The survival mode, or let things take its place? Taraka, when you meditate, do you allow things to take its place as it is?
Hmm. Whatever happens, happens.
Yeah. Or are we
Hmm.
trying to induce something here?
Hmm.
Or trying to survive?
Hmm.
So I want to invite us to observe that.
Yeah. I think that's a great invitation because really it goes back to what I was also asking. I mean, for many of my um people I work with, or even that the difficulty is in saying no, is in letting go, is in afraid that if I let go of that red race, what will happen? Will the young man catch up? Or if I don't go with my teenagers, if I don't go with that group, will they make me a social outcast and will I shrivel up and die? And if I say no, will she still be friends with me? And especially if that is my very special friend and I want her to last forever and ever, like vitamin C does. So I must do something about it. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for bringing that up about letting go. You see, in the movement of letting it go, we're giving permission to something to leave. We're positioning ourselves and allowing something to go. Our body, especially when we talk about autophagy, when cells they eat another cell or eat itself, there's no such movement of letting it go. Letting go is almost something that we must decide in order to take it place.
Yeah.
So do we value something and then it became devalued and then we let it go? Or do we let go because it's too valuable and it's difficult to let it take its way? For me, letting go is another form of evaluating something.
Mm,
So don't what we do then? We don't do anything. Why is there something to be done?
mm.
You know.
Good point, good point. It's more like
So
letting be than letting go. Like things, yeah.
letting things be, should it be near, far, exist or not exist? I think there's an essence of like this natural majesty to it, you know, like a natural design to it, a flow on it, you know.
Mm,
If we keep putting value to things,
mm,
we keep things near us, we keep approaching it, then we have to let it go, right?
yeah.
Because it might make us suffer, right?
Mm.
Then what should we do?
Yeah, you're right. It's perfect to bring up this distinction because even in letting go, the concept of letting go sounding so spiritual that even in it, if we look at it in a
You
way,
know, I love you so much, but it's time. I have to let you go too because I love you.
I have to let you go because you cause me too much pain. I'm in too much fear. You know, I have to consciously let you go. So the thing is, um, yeah, and that begs the question of, let's say, even like relationships, like, you know, it's like breathing, it's like our body is about like Tuesday with Maury and the professor dying and embracing the death of it. And sometimes even relationships breathe too, like they we we meet people and then we cross paths and then maybe sometimes they have to go somewhere else or we cannot connect anymore. We change into something else and things we don't have to let things go. They just naturally do different things, right? So how even to breathe into that? And yeah, Taraka is master of that, I think.
Taraka,
I, I don't
you
know
talk a
about
lot.
master.
You talk a lot
Fun.
about gratitude, right?
No, not it's just like labeled like that. She has this experience. I want her to talk about her divorce. Is
Oh,
it
No, it's not appropriate
yeah,
right now to do that. But
not
I do want to I do want to touch on something though, because
okay.
after all, this the heading topic of this conversation is about self worth, right? How how do we see it? How do we work with it? And how do we move towards uh, a better life using knowing that it's there? For me, when Julia was talking about like this primal instinct, like it's in our DNA, but I'm not sure whether this idea of self worth is even imprinted in our DNA. But you know, earlier when I was talking about where this idea even comes from, the original thought, the original doubt, first seed of doubt, it all stems from, to me, that's how I see it. It stems from this one insecurity, this this idea that there's a doubt, because when we have this insecurity, it's the first thought that you have a judgment of something in your life. The first experience of judgment, because when you have doubt, you start to judge good, bad, you know, what's going on, and you question it. So from there, of course, this everything else will start to piggyback on this original thought,
mm,
right? And one of the piggyback will be the self-worth thing, because we start to go, oh my God, who am I? Like what Julia was talking about. Am I not worthy? Like me growing up, who am I? I'm a girl. Why am I not in love as much as my brother? That's where I put this self-worth thing, from this doubt, from this doubt. So we grow up struggling with our self-worth. Oh, am I worthy, not worthy, and this and that. But then how do we work with it? How do we burn it up? How do we, like you said, let it go?
Let
right?
it go.
Yes,
Um,
and even in that movement of letting it go, it feels a bit sticky, right? To you, it feels a bit sticky. What do you mean, let
He's
it go?
right. Mm.
So how do we work with that? So all of our personality, all our decision, our whole entire life, actually, it's been it's been what you call set upon from this original doubt. From this original doubt. Because from there, it's like you question yourself, you ask, you look at yourself, and you question the world around you, and everything you do or say or plan or whatever it comes from this idea of self-worth.
you know, this doubt that you
Yes,
mentioned,
the original seed of doubt.
I think is very major because for me, the moments I go through most doubts is are the moments where I'm lacking in contentment. You see,
Absolutely.
I think if two brothers or brother and sister they're jealous of each other, the one thing lacking
Yes.
is gratefulness.
Mm,
Grateful for my parents, grateful for my brother or sister, or grateful for my food.
mm, mm,
How do we even how can we even evaluate if we're simply grateful,
mm,
This is something that should be part of us, I think.
mm,
The acknowledgement,
mm,
the gratefulness.
mm,
There's no value system in that. There's
mm.
nothing that can replace that. Once we're grateful, what is there to be compared? You know what I mean?
And there's
By,
no
by,
doubt too. And there's no
yes,
doubt.
Yeah,
there's
there's no doubt.
there's no question and there's no answer either.
Mm,
What is there to be questioned if we are gratefulness all the time?
mm,
We even question our self-worth when we're grateful for everything we
mm,
see. Because
mm,
everything we see is us.
mm,
We are this reality. So a person questioning his or her own self-worth, I invite to see, am I grateful for who I am?
mm, mm,
Am I grateful for existence itself? Am I grateful for everything I touch, see, eat, breathe? Do we even question our worth at that moment?
mm. Yes. Yes. Not to give up the idea of doubt, or how do we get rid of it? I suppose we don't get rid of it, we replace it with something else. I think that's a good point that you brought up, right? Because getting rid of it is still something that we need to do. There's a competition, there's still a comparison and competition in there. But instead of living life, having this doubt that form into a belief or a conditioning in our life that runs our life, we replace it with appreciation, with gratitude. And from there, it will open up because the experience of that is expansive. It expands out. And it starts to fill up all the space that you have lacked, all the space that you have doubt. So we're not getting rid of doubt or burning it up. We are filling up the space that it no longer has a room to breathe. Isn't that?
Exactly. When we're
Yeah.
grateful, everything is integrated.
Yes.
Nothing is left out.
Yes.
There's no way. If everything you want is one way, how do we even evaluate and compare one to another?
Oh,
There's only one.
absolutely. If you were to see just normal people walk around, you know, one that is experiencing a lack, that's always complaining, because people that complain, they have this lack consciousness, poverty consciousness, right? Not enough, not good enough, and all of that. And with someone that everything in their life they so appreciate and grateful for, and if you see that these two people the one that is totally grateful, they don't even have this idea of self-worth. That is not like, am I worthy? No, that's not even a question, does not even exist in the mind of this person. Compared to the one that is complaining, poverty consciousness and always, bitch about this and that. They are always comparing. They're always comparing. That's why they have this sense of lack. I have a car. Oh my God, his is bigger. I have a house. No. My sister has a bigger. Like there's always this comparing, and then when this comparing happens, again, there's this self-worth starts coming up. Show its ugly teeth.
I want to add that this comparing seems like, okay lah, I'll just stop comparing. It doesn't work exactly that way, because when we are in that mode, the survival mode, the self-worth mode, it's more than just comparison. It's more than just doubt. We will pay for that. We pay with our health, with our mental health, emotional, everything. There's a lot of expectation, a lot of disappointment. There's no disappointment without expectation. There's a lot of anxiety, a lot of projections, a lot of what we want, a lot of what we want it to matter. It's not a small thing, actually. It's a whole life. It's a whole lifestyle, whole existence. So, yeah, I would like to invite our viewers to see this. It's much more than what it seems.
Yeah.
Nowadays here in Thailand, the word influencer is booming. All these seminars and lectures about self-worth. It's like a huge market. Then what are we doing to make this topic so marketable? What's happening? I'm wondering here. I don't have the answer for that. But it's just booming, and I'm like, sometimes the only thing left is be grateful for everything, Grateful that I may be worth nothing.
Actually, we keep talking about this surviving mode, right? I know it's there in place. It's very primal to us, but instead of staying put there and be okay with that, why don't we raise about ourselves above that? Because that's what life is about. Yes, it starts from the original point of survival, the necessity, the and all of that. But then why don't we experience? We move up that ladder of the hierarchy of needs. If you remember Maslow's, and it moves up. Bottom is the survivor, and then I don't remember what's on the top now, because we move ourselves beyond the survival mode. Then there's this concept of having to fight for this, do that. Then it's not there anymore, because we're secure, we're stable, and from this stable, secure foundation, that's how life moves up and expand. But if we continue to say, okay, we are meant to be stuck in this survival mode, then we'll never get out of this mindset. It's a mindset too. This mindset of, oh, am I good enough? Am I, we always, again, the doubt is what they call it, the doubt is being reinforced again and again. To a point, sometimes it can become a monster, right? So if we were to move and raise ourselves above that survival mode, because we no longer need that. As a child, when we're born into this world, we still have to depend on our caregiver, our parents, and people to take care of us, feed us, clothe us, and make sure that we survive. But all that, once we start to grow out, it's not the primary focus anymore. We start to play with life. We start to see what we're good at, what's our strong point, our strength, and all of that. And we move beyond that, and we start to explore the possibility. We're not here to just struggle and be like in the bottom of the pile thing, We're not. We're meant to move and be and start to explore and play and discover for ourselves. So for me, that's how I see it. So even this idea of self-worth, I gave you the example of me growing up, with this doubt about who I am because I'm a girl. I want to be a boy because I get more attention, all that. As I grow up, and I start to become aware, self-aware, I don't even have this insecurity anymore of questioning where I'm at, who am I worth it? So even the self-worth thing, then all of a sudden I felt very secure and stable as a person, as a human being, not as a man or a woman. That's not even a comparison, right? And then the self-worth thing it becomes very natural because it is part of us. We absolutely are worthy of everything, every joy, every abundance, peace, clarity, fun, laughter, all of that. We're so absolutely worthy. So that's how I see it. Instead of just staying okay and complacent in our survival mode, we move, we expand. And we're not here. Do you have something to say before I continue my
No, it's
I
okay.
also have something to say.
Yeah.
I wanted to say that you will realize that usually if you observe people that take this self-worth too seriously, they take themselves too seriously. They take life too
Absolutely.
seriously.
Absolutely.
So, and the thing is, they're very attached to their image, for example. And the thing is, if we're not enjoying, we'll stay in that base of that triangle, the part of survival. I went to India and I went to Osho's ashram. And one of the key elements that they mentioned there was you must enjoy. If you're here meditating and dancing like a crazy person, you must enjoy. So when we detach a bit from taking ourselves too seriously, then we start stepping out a little bit from the survival mode. I'm not saying we take a vacation and then therefore we are out of survival mode because we enjoy vacation. I'm talking about putting aside ourselves as demanding to be seen as important, demanding to see that we matter, when we see these movements where people go like Black Lives Matter or Asian people matter and all that, I'm like, we must enjoy. Even meditation, when we meditate, when we get an enjoyment of it, then only then things are us, not part of us, not becoming closer to us. Everything we enjoy is us. Everything is existence. The enjoyment of life is life itself.
Play, fun, make magic. Right?
Yes.
Julia, you have something to say because I wanted to add. You have something to say just now?
I have.
Go on.
I have things to say, but please add first. Yeah.
The moment it's so funny. The irony of this whole thing is the moment we stop questioning, like what you say, the Black Lives Matter. Now it's Asian Life Matters, right? Recent incident. The moment we question that, we stop questioning that. That's when your life matters. Isn't it the irony of it? That's whatever you do matters. Everything we do. So again, what we were talking about earlier too, this idea of self-worth. When you are starting to experience life in your fullest, the best version of yourself, where do you even find time to start questioning, am I even worthy of this experience? Am I even worthy to be laughing so happily? You don't even have time to question that. There's no time. There's no space for that because you're so busy celebrating life. You're so busy having fun, discovering, playing with magic. So there's no room for all this mental thing. That's what I wanted to say. Where our focus is, where we're putting our attention again too, right? Yeah, Julia, you wanted to say something.
I hope I still remember. So I definitely agree with both of you, and that is the sweet spot, isn't it? But the thing is, I was want to just say that, okay, I'm very glad that we made the distinction between, the perspective of valuating something to move it to a gratitude, which is like, it comes from it doesn't have a base. It doesn't have like from a value platform and then I evaluate and therefore I'm grateful.
No.
So gratitude is something that an appreciation is without a base. It can be anything and it can therefore flourish. It can actually expand and open up universes. But
absolutely,
I would also like to say that it's also, the precious part of the human experience, the fact that we do have some instinctual, when I say DNA, it's more like some instinctual impetuses. And to say that we have, once a person wakes, these are muted and silenced, it's probably not going to happen. But the thing is, the interesting part of this messy journey, the beauty of this messy journey to me is that the awareness has it that therefore is not like a linear process. So like, how could we even, because I wouldn't want anyone to think that we are jumping from one evaluation platform into another to say that, okay, if I'm arrived, then we wouldn't even have a place where things feel messy or things feel that, the ugly, or we evaluate as ugly, the Maslow's character, then no place for jealousy, no place for even certain aspects to emerge. I'm not saying that we must give it place. That's not where I'm coming from. More so is like, oh man, if we are real, we know that things pop up. It could come from conditioning. It could be primal in the DNA, or it could be messy. It could be also coming up for us to see that, oh, okay, it exists in this way. But what I'm trying to say is there's not a mess. It's not a clean, therefore arrived kind of a journey. The perspective taking is constant and expanding, of course, if we persist, but it definitely demands a shift and a dedication to a perspective taking. Like, once we see that the perspective of survival, the perspective of valuating something, assessing something, that life, who am I, is attached to success in the terms of the collective measures, or and then we go on auto mode. If they are not questioned, if these beliefs are not questioned, then we are on auto mode, and it becomes totally fine if we have to, we do work relentlessly in order to do what. So this is one thing that I want to bring up. The other thing is, then, okay, there'll be people who say, so unrealistic, man. You this is totally unrealistic. So you're saying you don't need to go to work lah. You just lie on the sofa and then you wait for the next pay packet to drop on your lap. Is that what you do, well, then it goes on to the next thing. Like when you shift that perspective from evaluating and from having like a risk assessment perspective towards life to a gratitude, appreciation perspective of, probably you would equate it to abundance, right? To recognize that, for me, I would call it like abundance perspective, where you see that the experience that come is so rich. I'm not going to look at things in terms of cowrie shells or, the nebulous knowledge or whatever. Everything, let's say abundance is what we taste as what is rich in life. Okay. So if we move to a appreciation, gratitude perspective, the rules of the universe, then we begin to understand what then is really, if there's even a word called success, or even if there's a word called, satisfaction. Okay, satisfaction. All the pursuit of that who I am is to lead to satisfaction. But maybe not in the way in the evaluating collective survivalist term, but we are shifting to another allowing, because then we recognize that actually this universe is abundant in ways beyond our comprehension and more. I just want to say that it doesn't mean we sacrifice our survivalist perspective or be aware of it and we step out of the hamster wheel. Therefore, it means that we are going into a new deprivation, and then poverty and all that is the logical consequence or something. But we are just like, it's just beginning to step into a new perennial natural law of abundance.
We can't hear you, Eddie.
Eddie, you're blocked. You're muted.
You're muted.
Go on, please.
Okay.
I'm just listening.
Okay.
Actually, I'm done.
I do want to say something what Julia just talked about. You're so right. Most of the time, and also what Eddie said earlier too about taking things seriously. Just because you're having fun with your life, that doesn't mean you're not responsible. This idea, drop it. Most people think if you're having fun, you're celebrating life, then you are so irresponsible, you're sitting around doing absolutely zilch all. That's actually totally the opposite, right? It's totally the opposite, because actually you're living life as according to the best version of who you are. You show the world this, because that's who we are. But what Julia said earlier about the messy part of survival and all that, we're not trying to ignore that part of us. But what I'm inviting everyone here is to see that we don't have to get stuck there. We have the power to shift that experience. We have the power. We shift, we move up, we expand. How do we do that? You just put it very clearly. This experience of this attitude towards life, the appreciation, the gratitude. And when we start to experience all of that, very naturally, all of this messy behavior that we have, actually, we don't even have to deal with it. It naturally just drop off, it slide off us. It just dissolve. Like, next thing you know, we stop behaving that way anymore, because we're so busy appreciating our life, appreciating our work, the money we have, appreciating our family member, and all of that, and grateful for everything in our life. So we're not ignoring one part so that we can focus on the other part. No, actually, we're just putting attention to what is more upward spiraling, more expensive, more fun than, oh my God, my life sucks, I'm not worth it. Like, yeah, sure, if you want to focus on that, by all means, do that. And just see where your life takes you. You forever get stuck in this survival mode of struggling and, not contented and don't have enough and unloved and unappreciated. Or you make the choice, right? When I say appreciation, it's very simple. With praise, it's so natural for us to go out in our world, because this is a conditioning, right? We start to find something that's wrong with my universe. Oh my God, look at this painting. I don't like the frame. Right? We focus on something that's not right, something that's imperfect. Instead of go, oh my God, the color is so amazingly vibrant. That's these two choices. That's your attitude. I choose to see the vibrancy of the color. You choose to see the ugly frame that frame the picture. So this is the attitude towards life. How you approach that is how your life unfolds.
So I'm going to invite us to do this now. I'm
Right.
going to invite us to do this now for the audience. Like, if we have that shift of perspective away from looking at
Attitude.
worth and
Mm.
like respect as is something that is attached to values and worth, then
Mhm.
what will happen when we shift a perspective? Okay, I start first.
Mhm.
Because I start first because this thing has been bugging me about, you know, children being so depressed and parents making demands of them
Mhm.
and you know thinking that they can only love them in that way because they have to make them press on because it's good for them. And I'm also feeling sad about couples, you know, setting up homes together and life together and so on, and yet it's so much about the doing, and a lot of unhappiness comes from when they make demands of each other, like saying that, you know, my wife is, I'm so dissatisfied with her, she is so engrossed with her world, she doesn't give me sex, or you know, she doesn't give me what I want, she doesn't cook for me, you know, the whole dialogue about the is about values, because there's an evaluation of what is to be expected.
Mhm.
Okay, the first thing I think people will be getting when the shift of perspective happening is that they will move away from demands and they probably will experience more, they'll pay attention more to connections.
Yes,
Like there will be a true
absolutely.
return to the why of parenting, why even have a kid in the first place, why you even want to get someone intimate in your life in the first place. Probably there's a chance for real connection to happen when you start seeing each other, when you start appreciating each other. And the other thing is that I think there probably will be less of neediness,
Yes.
like need versus neediness.
Mm.
And the third thing that I think is that people can also say no with better equanimity without thinking that they're going to lose out on friends or they're going to lose out on relationships and experiences. If it's alive in you to say no, it's not comfortable, then say no. And you know, it's like don't give a fuck about it. Yeah. Okay,
Yes.
sorry.
My my battery is about to finish here, so I would like to conclude by inviting us, when we take ourselves too seriously, we're generally not very generous. Of course, we talked about gratefulness, but one of the things is when we see poor people being generous, for example, it's not that they are immune to surviving or not surviving, but you see they're beyond that. They're
Mhm.
enjoying life, they're being generous to each other, and they're
Mm.
grateful for their own lives, you know.
Yes.
So
When that happens too, you will notice a very, very strong shift of being
yes,
self-centered,
yes,
self-absorbed to what Julia's talking about, the connection, the giving, the loving. That's why this shift is important. This shift from uh, uh, this self-worth thing, this shift, the attitude towards life is how we can start. Simple. We don't have to do a life-changing event right now. No, start small.
Yeah.
if we talk
Eddie was saying
about,
the demands.
I want to conclude this because my battery is about to finish. Well, what I would like to say is that taking ourselves too seriously and trying to make ourselves important
Mm.
comes this huge lack of being generous to ourselves and others.
Mhm.
when we're truly grateful and generous to ourselves, we don't take ourselves too seriously. And then we begin to enjoy life.
Yeah.
So what I'm seeing here is that not necessarily there is a shift out there or in our behavior, but more on how we look at ourselves,
Yes.
our awareness.
Our attitude and mindset.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I want to say thank you for your growth today. And I'm not
Teresa has something to say.
yeah, I'm not concluding anything. It's just that if my connection cuts off, I
Yeah.
just wanna be grateful. Please go on, Taraka. I just wanted to say before I get cut out.
Mm, yeah.
Stay there for as long as you can.
Yeah. Actually, I was just like inspired to when we say, how do we move, start small. Maybe we just give something for the audience to play with for the next week until the next talk, right? When I say start small, we don't have to do something life changing. Just every day go out and see what you can give appreciation to. You can go next to the auntie, the vegetable auntie, and say, "Wow, auntie, today you look so pretty." It doesn't have to be fake. You just find something to praise. Or if you look at the scenery, oh my God, this sky is so blue. It's absolutely beautiful. You give appreciation. Something small. You don't have to do a big deal. You don't even have to be, very embarrassed to go approach up. You don't have to. Find 3 things that to appreciate each day. Just 3 things. It's very simple. It's everywhere. You see a person to talk to, or you see even an animal, just give appreciation. Oh my God, you're such a beautiful doggy today. Do that and see how your life shifts every day.
It's so amazing because when we do that, it's a form of diluting and dissolving importance over things, even ourselves.
Yes.
It just dissolves all sense of importance.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing, Tara.
And I want to say that just to keep on this this thread, that when we shift perspectives, what potentially delicious things might happen is that maybe more and more we can observe, when Eddie says not take ourselves so like seriously. Yes, and in that non-evaluation, probably you'll see yourself like confronting and even seeing anger, instinctual impulses coming up, and you feel delighted because you say, "Yay!" Then this is also a chance for me to work on, and also to release all these like residual things. And another side effect is probably more and more gentleness also to yourself and others, like more self-forgiveness. We know that we are real, and then we are working on it, and there's more gentleness. It's not taking things so seriously, holding on people to the throat and saying, it's like, or evaluating or criticizing or in anger, breeding guilt and stuff like that, but more so like, okay, I'm then it becomes a different script altogether. It is about wanting, there's no question of self-worth, there's just this shining of who you are. You want perfection, okay, fine, it's because it's who you are. You want to do things well, you want to create to a standard or whatever. It's all a full-blown expression without hindrance.
Yes.
And it's totally different than, self-flagellation, fear of doing that, a fear of doing things wrongly, and also wanting to do something so that you can get the next award or the next scholarship. It's totally from a different place.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's the easiest thing to do. Every one of us, regardless of who we are, we can appreciate and praise. No one can come out and say, sorry, I can't praise my boss. Yes, you can. Are you willing to do that? Look at your boss, this boss that you can't stand, that every day you go into office, you can't stand looking at this. Just look at him. If you're willing to to do that, you will find something to praise about this man that you hate so much in the office. I'm just taking an example. So it's a matter of whether you're willing. Don't come and say, sorry, I cannot appreciate life because like that, all this reason why your life sucks.
And you wouldn't,
Mm.
sorry, so sorry. I'm just saying that you wouldn't also feel embarrassed telling him your feedback too.
No.
Like even if saying that I'm a little bit upset with you just now for saying that, and you wouldn't hold yourself like
No.
for fear that you'll be judged.
Yes.
Sorry, go on, please.
And from there too, the moment you start to willing to play with that, just watch magic happens. That's where the magic is. You start to praise somebody or appreciate somebody. It's easy to praise somebody that you like and enjoy and love, but try playing with somebody you can't stand, and you see how it shifted. Magic. And the moment that happens, the natural law take care of itself. The natural law, everything is moving upward current in the form of appreciation. Everything around in the whole universe is singing praise constantly. We're just so self-centered and so self-absorbed to notice that. So just play with that. That's small. You don't have to go. It became very natural in my life. Now I go everywhere when I start talking to people. I always look at, see them, experience them. I always can very easily see something to praise about them and something to appreciate about them, regardless of who they are. They could be just an uncle sitting there doing nothing, whatever. I can always say, uncle, and then you can see their smile light up, their face light up, and their whole world shifted because of your one act of kindness. I think appreciation is a powerful act of kindness, because if you do that to the outside world, that's who you're doing that to, yourself. So in this act of kindness towards yourself, this self-worth thing start to dissolve on its own. You don't question who you are, whether you're worthy to be loved or not. You don't even need permission to start loving yourself and all. You don't, because your experience is so full with this loving gentleness, kindness, like what Julia's talking about, and that's what is going to move it, not only to ourselves, the whole world.
And when you start looking into, sorry, looking into the mirror, then maybe we can begin to say, oh, hello, I like you, and you're not bad, and it's going to be okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I wanted to very quickly talk about, see, sometimes when we say be grateful, most of us have a hard time here and there. It can become sticky one way or another. But when you start with appreciation, like let's say, Julia, oh my God, your lipstick color, I love that color, right? Very natural. And of course, what will be her response? What would be your response to me when I praise you, Julia?
I'm going to buy a dozen of it.
No, but when I say, oh my God, I love your lipstick, what would you say to me?
Thank you.
Absolutely. See, it's a very natural course of events. This experience of appreciation starts the chain reaction, right? To create gratitude in your life naturally without having to force yourself. And then when you say gratitude, thank you, and all of a sudden you and I start to create a bond, a connection between us. Naturally, because it's like the experience of gratitude is so expensive. So it's there. So it's like an exercise we play with. We start with praise. Then from there, you experience gratitude. Then you start to experience this bonding, this connection, this intimacy with and love with people around us. And it becomes very natural too.
And when we have no reference, like why we are doing things, then we can also say, I love you, without fearing that you will take advantage of my statement, for example. Yeah.
So the sense of lack, the fear of doubt, the doubt, the sense of lack, and all of this judgment with the self-worth issue, on its own, we don't have to do a single thing about it. We don't have to do a damn thing about it, because we're so busy praising and saying thank you and loving. Right? This is not ignoring. We're not trying to be an ostrich, No, we're just filling our life with what is more important than all of this stuff. I call it stuff. So So I like to end with that, because then people can take away from it. they want to play with this exercise about doing 3 things to appreciate, play with it. Play with it and share with us in the comment if that's if you experience any magic from it. Just see. Be
So
attentive. Be attentive to what happens the moment you start praising and appreciating your universe. See what happens. That I want to invite everyone to play with. It's the easiest thing we can do as human beings. The kindness towards others and ourselves is to praise.
And we move away from being like almost like risk evaluators and always thinking about what or how to say in order not to risk certain things happening.
Mm-hmm.
Just being a flower, just being who you are, just shining who you are without evaluating. Okay, or maybe a tomato. I mean, it depends on who I am, right? So it's like if I'm a tomato, then I'm happy being a tomato plant. I don't give excuses for why or why not.
Yes.
So that's it, without any excuses.
Yes.
So, all right, Eddie, anything? Your battery's still working?
Hey. He's not talking, so we're conserving energy.
I just want to conclude that loving ourselves is not about what we do, or I want to make myself important, or I want to love more myself, so I'll go for, I don't know, hair treatment, or I'll go to gym. It's more like what we are than what we do. So I want to conclude with that. Doesn't mean that we're appreciating more ourselves by doing those things.
Yes.
But it's more like how we're observing and how aware we are of things around us that would generate gratefulness. So thank you everyone for today, and I see you on the next one.
Hey, as usual, there's an intro talk on Sunday at 1 p.m. If anyone wants to listen more to what this praise, gratitude, love is about, there will be a free intro talk about an hour. Sunday, 1 p.m.
This is really about, Tareka is talking about her meditation practice that she teaches. So if you are interested in, that, please just let her know.
We'll post the link at the comment after the live video.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
And also see you all next week. Take care. Love you too. Bye.
Ciao, baby.
Ciao, baby.